Hey everyone, and welcome back to Horror Movies for Life YouTube channel, and welcome to this 1982 horror movie review video. We're going to take a look at a slasher movie today from 1982. And this is actually, um, I have a two-pack here, a double pack from Scream Factory. The movie we're going to take a look at is X-Ray, also known as Hospital Massacre from 1982. That's part of this double pack. Now, I actually did a review on this double pack for both movies about 2 years ago, but I took that review down, so you won't find it on my channel. I wanted to review these films individually. I'll have to do Schizoid on an individual review somewhere down the line. I'm not sure because I've already done my 1980 as part of this overall 1980s horror series. So I'll review it at some point, but we're going to just talk about X-Ray today from 1982. So let's just go ahead and get into it here. X-Ray, also known as Hospital Massacre, Be My Valentine or Else, and Ward 13. Lots of different names for this movie, but I'm going to go by X-Ray because that's what's on the cover here of the Blu-ray that I watched for it. I have seen this movie before too. Obviously, as if I reviewed the double pack before, but I just think I just saw it once prior to this. So anyway, X-Ray is a 1982 American slasher film directed by Boaz Davidson and starring Barbie Benton. Its plot follows a woman who becomes trapped on an empty floor of a hospital where a murderer posing as a surgeon attempts to kill her. So basically, the movie opens in 1961. An unpopular boy named Harold Rusk leaves a Valentine's Day card at the home of the beauty Susan Jeremy. Susan and her friend David mock and crumple up the card, prompting an enraged Harold to break into the house and kill David by hanging him from a hat stand. 19 years later, so around 1980, Susan is divorced, has a daughter, and a new boyfriend named Jack. On Valentine's Day, Susan has Jack take her to the hospital to pick up the results of a standard physical exam, which her new health insurance plan has requested. On the way into the building, she is observed from a window by a man in surgical garb. The man strokes a photograph of a young Susan and sabotages the elevator. Susan boards in order to delay her while he kills Dr. Jacobs, the doctor who has her paperwork, which the murderer tampers with. A janitor later finds Dr. Jacobs' body and has his face dunked into a sink full of acid by the murderer after trying to follow him into a nearby storeroom. So, yeah, that's kind of the setup, the premise, the beginning of X Ray, aka Hospital Massacre from 1982. As far as the cast goes, we have Barbie Benton as Susan Jeremy, Elizabeth Hoy as young Susan Jeremy, um, I'll bring that up in a minute here. Charles Lucia as Harold Rusk, Billy Billy Jane as young Harold Rusk, which I'll also talk about in a minute. John Van Ness as Jack, and John Warner Williams as Dr. Dan Saxon. So the reason I brought up the young versions of Susan and Harold is because the actress and the actor that plays the kids when they're young were actually from Bloody Birthday. They were two of the three evil kids from the movie Bloody Birthday, which I reviewed for 1981 earlier this year for this series. So I thought that was kind of funny. Billy Jane as young Harold Rusk was the kid with the glasses and happy in Bloody Birthday. I'm getting my slashers confused now. And of course, Elizabeth Hoy was the young girl. And I thought it was kind of funny because at the beginning of this, she goes into the kitchen after they crumple up the Valentine's Day card that she got from Harold, and she pulls out this like this psycho knife, basically this long knife to cut this birthday cake. And I don't know if that was a callback to Bloody Birthday. I almost feel like it was because she was in that movie. Um, because there's other callbacks in this movie that I'll talk about when I get into my review as well. But I wanted to bring up the young actors just because I thought it was funny. They were both in a movie that came out the year before, Bloody Birthday, Elizabeth Hoy and Billy Jane. So anyway, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for X-Ray from 1982. Um, this is it's a pretty good slasher, not a great slasher. It ain't making any top 10 lists. But I think it's better than some for sure that I've seen during this early period of the early 80s when it comes to slasher movies. So let's just talk about what I like about X-Ray from 1982. I really like the hospital setting. That's the first thing that really stands out to me. I think they do a really good job uh, utilizing the hospital space and the different rooms and the different floors and everything. It isn't just like in one hospital room or anything. And I think the hospital setting plays out well for a slasher movie. You got the different rooms, the different areas of the hospital, like the labs and x-rays, and you got the killer using different medical hospital instruments to kill people with, like a syringe, an orthopedic saw, and a surgical hatchet. So I think it really plays into the whole slasher trope there, and I think it really makes for an interesting setting that really works. And I thought they did well in this movie with it. The other slasher movie from a year earlier that you think of with the hospital setting is Halloween 2, of course. Now, Halloween 2 is a better movie than this, but this movie still does a good job with that setting. So that's the first thing that I really like about the movie. The movie does have quite a few kills in it, about 7 to 10, I would say, all told. And they're fairly well paced out throughout the movie. It isn't like some movies where they have like 95% of them in the last 20 minutes, or they have like three at the beginning of the movie and then one at the end or something like that. These are all pretty spread out, pretty paced out kills. So I thought that was cool. Barbie Benton playing the main character, I thought does a pretty good job here acting in this movie, especially the fact that it's a low budget slasher movie and you don't expect great acting in these kind of movies. And the fact that she didn't really do a lot of other work besides this. She did some TV work, a movie here, a movie there, or like a made for TV movie, but this is kind of her big movie. And I thought she did well. The acting's not great in this movie, as you would expect across the board. Excuse me, but she's the one person that I thought, and of course she's the main character, so she kind of has to carry the movie here. And I thought she did a good job with it. I really did, and I'm not just saying that because you see her topless in the movie. She actually did a good job portraying this character that goes from thinking she's just going to go in and go out. And then the hospital, then the staff is keeping her there and she doesn't want to stay there, to being hysterical towards the end of the movie. She did a good job transitioning and playing those different emotions very well, I thought. So kudos to her. I like the way the killer gets Susan to stay in the hospital as well. The killer kind of had a plan here. It wasn't just let's try to get her when she's in the hospital. He made sure she had to stay there. And he does that by using and changing her medical records, her x ray images, to make the doctors and the hospital staff concerned for her health, that they need to run more tests and need to observe her, things like that. So she has to stay in the hospital. And she actually, at one scene, has to have like a physical examination, which goes on a bit long. Let's just say that, a little gratuitously long. Um, so yeah, I just thought that was really clever by the killer, in order to keep her in the hospital so he can carry out his evil plan here of ultimately killing her and anybody else that gets in his way. Um, and then of course she's starting to be perceived as being crazy, because once she starts discovering people are being killed while she's in the hospital, she's trying to tell people and she's screaming. And so the hospital staff of course observes that as being, she's psychotic, she's hallucinating, she's crazy basically. And so then he doesn't need to do anything else because now they're not going to let her go. Now, well, I'll get into that with my cons. I have some issues with the hospital and the hospital staff overall, but I just thought I thought it was really clever how the killer kept her there. That's the pro that I'm talking about here. Um, I did like that this is sort of another Valentine's Day slasher movie that uses Valentine decor, cards, and gifts. At one point, there's like a red gift box that's set on her bed that has a cake in it and a severed head, and two different moments in the movie within 5 minutes of each other. But the first time I watched this, I wasn't really thinking, "Ooh, a Valentine's Day slasher," because the only Valentine's Day slashers that I think of are My Bloody Valentine, My Bloody Valentine 3D, the remake, and Valentine from the late 90s. But this is definitely a Valentine's Day slasher. And even though it's not quite as in your face Valentine's Day as My Bloody Valentine is, like I said, it's got some good decor and within the hospital, and it's got the card at the beginning that's given, and the gift that's given in the hospital that's set on her bed and stuff. So it does really play into the holiday pretty well. So I like that. Um, and then my final pros, I like some of the horror nods. I thought they were fun and cool too. Like there's one scene early on in the movie. I already talked about the two kids from Happy Birthday to Me or Bloody Birthday. God, I keep getting those two confused. Bloody Birthday, the two kids, and the gal cutting the cake with the knife. I think that was a nod to Bloody Birthday. I really do. Um, but then she gets off the elevator on the ninth floor, I think it is, and there's these three guys wearing gas masks. It's actually a nod to My Bloody Valentine. They're like like the minor masks that he wore, but these are like um, what do you gas masks because they're fumigating apparently on this floor of the hospital. I just thought that was a funny part and kind of a nod to that movie. Obviously, you have Dr. Dan Saxon for John Saxon. There's another doctor that has the last name of Carpenter. So I mean, there's some nice horror nods that goes on in this movie. It's part of the fun of it. So I enjoyed that aspect as well. Getting into the cons for X-Ray from 1982 here. Um, the killer himself is obvious. The movie tries to make it this big reveal, but given the opening of the movie that we get 19 years earlier, it's pretty obvious who the killer is. Um, it doesn't work because of that opening. Now, if they didn't have that opening, or if they had it play out in a different way, then maybe it would have worked better, but it really doesn't work because of the way they had it. It's obvious. Also, the killer makes this high weird pitch grunt noise every time he stabs somebody. It's kind of like the Gimp from Pulp Fiction. That's what it made me think of. And so that was weird. I like the killer's plan, but I wasn't really a fan of the killer himself as far as it's just a human, it's just a guy in a surgical mask and surgical garb. There's nothing scary or intimidating about him. I would actually say he's more funny when he attacks and kills people than anything. And that's not really what you want, I don't think, in a slasher movie during this time. Um, so yeah, that was kind of a con. Some of the acting is poor, as I mentioned, except for Barbie Benton. Some of the scenes do drag a bit in the hospital as well. It's only an 89-minute movie, so the movie doesn't drag. It's at that sweet spot of an hour and a half. But there were a few scenes that I thought they could have cut a little quicker, could have edited a little better. I would have liked more blood and gore with the kills. Like there's one kill where the killer uses this orthopedic saw thing, and the guy standing behind this curtain kind of thing where people change behind. And you see like a flicker splash of blood. But I mean, if you were using that thing, there should have been a lot more blood and gore than that. And there's some other kills too where they don't really give you a lot of blood and gore. There is blood in the kills, but not as much as I wanted. The effects are pretty good, I'll say though. There's one scene where a guy's face is dipped in acid, and then when he falls out, when he falls down, you see his face like all boiled over. I thought that was a pretty good effect. So I just wish they would have had more of it from a gore standpoint. Um, and then we got to talk about the hospital and the hospital staff. This hospital staff, I don't know if things were different back in the early 80s when it comes to hospitals, but I don't think, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but can they really keep you against your will if you don't want to be there based on medical information? It's one thing if you've been committed or something like that and you're trying to escape, but I don't know. I was questioning that to say the least, especially towards the end of the movie. Now I understand that she gets kind of Barbie Benton's character of Susan gets kind of crazy towards the end, but she knows there's killings going on and nobody believes her. But again, she was just coming in for test results. I don't know that, they can make suggestions that, I really think you should stay here. We got to run more tests on you. But if somebody tried to keep me there today, they better have a gun or something because I'm not putting up with that shit. Um, you know, I'll take their information into account, but the fact that you're going to hold me there against my will, no, no, you're not. But like I said, this was 45 years ago. I don't know if it was different then. I really don't. As far as the hospital staff, they range from being weird to pervy to over the top. And they're really not believable at all as a hospital staff. Some of these hospital staff members, I wanted to smack them around as much as the killer, frankly. And I kind of felt for Barbie Benton. Um, I don't know. I didn't really get this hospital staff. Like some of the doctors, the one that gives her this examination where she's laying down on a table with just a pair of underwear on, and he's feeling her up pretty good, and that scene goes on for a good 5 to 7 minutes, and very gratuitous to say the least. And I mean, I'm not gonna complain about seeing Barbie Benton's topless, but I don't know. It's just the doctors were very pervy. The nurses were weird. Some of them were over the top. Some of that is just bad acting, but I don't know. I Somebody can comment down below, but if I were her, I'd be bulling these people over to get out of the hospital if I didn't want to stay there. That's just my thought. I've never seen a hospital staff like this before in my life, though, and I don't think I'd ever go to this kind of hospital. Maybe it was different 40 or 50 years ago. You can let me know because I was two in 1980. So with all that being said, though, guys, like I said at the beginning, this is a pretty good slasher movie. Not a great slasher movie, not a horrible slasher movie, kind of a middle of the road. Some people will think it's underrated to a certain extent. I think it's fine. I don't have any trouble watching it. It's entertaining, it's fun, in kind of a so bad it's good kind of way. You got a lot of kills, you got a great setting that they utilize pretty well. And Barbie Benton is easy on the eyes, and I think also gives a good performance. So I'm going to give X-Ray a 7 out of 10. It's like I said, it's good. I like it. It's pretty good, I should say. 7 out of 10 for X-Ray or Hospital Massacre from 1982. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen this movie, what you think of it. Do you like it? Do you not? Why not? Comment down below. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It would really help me out um, as far as future content goes. With all that being said, thank you for watching. I hope you're enjoying this series for 1982. And as always, stay scared. Bye.